This week, we answer your questions. How much will today's electric vehicles depreciate over time? Why aren't some car brands sold in the US? What are all-weather tires? And why do today's transmissions have so many gears? Find out next on Talking Cars. Hey, welcome back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm Emily Thomas.
And I'm Ryan Pizlakowski.
And we've got an all questions episode for you today. We get so many questions sent to us at TalkingCars@iCloud.com. We're just going to try and get through as many as we can. So if you've been waiting to have your question answered, this could be your shining moment. The first person who we are going to call on, is Rob from Portland, Oregon. And Rob asks, I've owned 6 new cars throughout the years, and they're all from different brands. I've loved them all, but I like to try something new with every purchase. How do people like me fit into owner satisfaction ratings, since I'm not brand or model loyal? So as it sounds like Rob's kind of one of us who gets to drive something new very, very often, new and different, and variety is the spice of life. But Emily, what does this mean for our owner satisfaction score? Because the way I understand it, we ask people, would you buy this car again? And Rob could love the car, but he's not going to say yes, right?
He might not say yes because he just likes to try new things. So I reached out to Steve Ellick. He's our senior auto analyst, and he deals very heavily with all of our survey data. And basically the way Steve explained it to me is it is based off of the question, would you buy this car again? However, we're not asking it necessarily from the perspective of are you going to run out right now and go get another one? It's more like, do you regret this car purchase decision that you made? Now that you've had it, right? So in Rob's case, he might love the car, but he just might want to try a different brand or a different model for the next one. So he won't necessarily go out and get the newest model of the same car. But if he loved the car that he's in, he should answer that he loves the car that he's in. That, that's more the perspective to have rather than being like, well, I've already done the research for my next car purchase and it's going to be this totally different car. Do you know what I mean? It's all about kind of framing the question the right way, I think, in terms of your mentality when you're answering it. So Rob, make sure when you answer the survey that you answer it based off of, do you regret the decision that you made with this car? And if not, then you should say that you're satisfied.
If anything, I would hold his opinion in a high place because he's experiencing different brands and models. So he's kind of like us in a sense, right? We're unbiased and we get to drive all this different stuff. So he has a broader perspective, and I think that's worth something. So that's
exactly when he's answering, he can say it from that perspective, like you were saying,
right.
Ryan.
Because
I've tried more than one.
Right. Well, there are brand loyal or model loyal people that they only buy a Volvo and that's it. They buy they're Volvos for life, and that's fine. But they might be a little biased, right?
I've only driven the Ford EcoSport, and the Ford EcoSport is the best car that exists.
Right. Yeah. So I don't want to bash on the EcoSport, but we got what you're saying.
Dead.
We get what you're saying.
It's dead. We can say that. On to another question from Daniel in Austin. And speaking of a car that we've had some opinions on, I've been interested in EVs for a while now, and I recently bought a Polestar 2 Launch Edition. I really enjoy it for its speed, efficiency, power, and charging at home. My question is this. How do you think EVs with around 200 to 250 miles of range will fare on the resale market in a few years? Are early adopters going to be extremely disappointed when it's time to trade that Launch Edition EV in? This is a great question. This is a question a good friend of mine asked just the other day when he was looking at cars with that 200 mile range, and as we start to see cars going over 400 miles. So Ryan, you were telling me about you looked at the Leaf and how much those are selling for now.
Yeah, I mean the early Leafs, they only had 80 mile range. That was in ideal conditions, and they're dirt cheap. I mean, you can find them for next to nothing. It seems like And it's not
especially now compared to everything else.
Well, right, yeah, and right now, I mean, listen, right now is not a good time to be buying a car in the first place, but they're cheap, and 80-mile range is not a lot. So it will work for some people. That's fine. And you know what? They'll get a smoking deal. They can commute back and forth to work within the 80-mile range, and they're fine with that. That's great. But he's talking about 200 to 250 miles. So these are much more substantial EVs, right? I have a hard time saying that any EVs right now will hold their value well, just because I think of them like computers. And technology advances so fast. They're rapidly changing. I mean, just in a couple of years, we've gone from less than 100 miles up to now we have this new Tesla's claiming 400 and change. It changes so fast. So tomorrow they could come out with a new battery technology, and we can get 500-600 miles, and that all their stuff is archaic, part of the past. I have a hard time saying it'll hold its resale well, but I think for sure that 200, 250 it's going to hold its value better than the 80-mile Leaf. That's just my personal take on it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have Lucid coming out now with something in the 500s, which is astounding. It's also a car that's well into the six figures, and you also have to look at it in terms of also how much money you saved. If you're depending upon how much your energy costs in Texas and you're charging it at home, the cost of maintaining it, the end price could be that the depreciation isn't really something that matters as much, because we found that EVs do sort of, we have some information online. Our folks in advocacy crunched some numbers and found that EVs do save money over time. So especially the longer you keep it. So, you're not paying for oil changes. You're not paying for, other things that can go wrong that just don't exist on the Polestar. So if you want to look at and find out what the top contenders for range are right now, you can head over to consumerreports.org. We have an article about Lucid, and it also explains what Lucid's this, if you haven't been following, it's this new EV manufacturer based in Arizona, and they have these very expensive high mileage vehicles. So head over to cr.org and look at that article. Angie from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has a question. My wife and I are looking for a used SUV to replace one of our current sedans. We have two small children, ages 1 and 4, and we're looking for a vehicle that is safe and reliable, has a wide enough bench seat for 2 car seats and a third adult, plus all-wheel drive. Our budget is $20,000 to $25,000, but we're willing to go up to $28,000 for the right vehicle. My wife would like something more upscale, but it is not a necessity. It's another one of those questions that's really representative. So I see car seats here. So Emily, I'm gonna go to you first. Do you have any just sort of general buying advice for someone who wants to see if their car seats fit?
Take your seats with you to the dealership. That is the big piece of advice. I've done it. They might look at you a little weird, but you know what? It's a big purchase, and it does not make sense for you to buy a car that does not fit your car seats unless you intend on buying new car seats. You want to ensure that for your specific car seats, you're able to get a secure installation in the vehicle that you're going to have. So it's really important to actually do that with any vehicle that you're considering. Also, for something like what you're asking, where you want to be able to fit 2 car seats in the back plus an adult, it varies from vehicle to vehicle. It varies from car seat to car seat, because you might have really skinny car seat models. You might have bulkier ones. How you fit back there or how the car seats can fit next to each other there's different configurations that you can try, and you should totally do that. You should try them all out. You should put the seats next to each other. You should put them on the 2 outboard seats and see if you have enough space to get into the middle and be comfortable there and buckle up, etc. Definitely try out the back seat of any vehicle that you're considering. That being said, I did some digging in the Pittsburgh area, and I found a 2020 Mazda CX-5. Probably not upscale like you asked, but it was a car that I really, really liked when we had it here at the track. And I only had 1 car seat at that time, but I was often in the back seat with Micah. And so I can vouch that it was pretty comfortable. It has really great reliability for that generation. I would definitely go with the 2020 model. It has better reliability than the 2018 and the 2019s did. It has good IHS crash scores, standard advanced driver assist systems. It also allows you to do center borrowing for the lower anchors in the back seat. So if you wanted to install one of the car seats in the middle seat, you could borrow the lower anchors from the two outboard seats and then use a seatbelt installation in one of the outboard seating positions. So there's a little bit more flexibility, and I thought it had good cargo space for having kids. So that's my recommendation. But ultimately, even with that, you would still need to try out your own seats in that car.
Before we go on to our other questions, you might notice that this podcast, like our magazine, like our website, is missing a few things. Ooh, it's missing something. It's missing ads. It's missing ads from car companies. It's missing ads from dealerships. It's missing ads from, people pitching mattresses and telling funny stories about their mattress and trying to get you to put in a promo code. You don't have to remember any promo codes if you want to support Talking Cars. You just have to go to cr.org/give Talking Cars. cr.org/give Talking Cars. And that's where you can send a little bit of money to us. We're a nonprofit. The money that you send us helps to, keep this happening. It also helps us to keep testing these vehicles independently. We buy our own cars to test them. We don't borrow them from manufacturers the way that almost everyone else out there does. And that keeps us independent and unbiased. So cr.org/give Talking Cars. Our next question comes from Brian. Brian asks, I would love to see some reviews on the new 3-peak snow/all-season tires. And I think he's talking about the logo with the little the 3 mountain peaks that are coming out. I bought 2 sets of the Michelin Cross Climate and looked at the competing Goodyear Model 2. Does the performance of these tires fall between snow and all-season tires? Are these the holy grail for those of us with occasional snowstorms? Thanks. So before I throw this question to Ryan, I just feel like I have to set the table because we get so many questions about these. I think people don't know what these are. Ryan, can you explain what these tires are? Because we hear about, you have to switch over from winter to all season or winter to summer tires. Are these tires that can actually kind of keep that from happening? And especially in a place like, southern New England where the snow isn't crazy, but you get it. What's going on here?
Yeah, so for us in the northern regions and where, we get snow, we deal with winter tires often, right? So you have all season tires, which are just regular, all around tires. You can use them year round. They're the most common tires you'll find on vehicles today. And then a dedicated winter tire is designed to be used from, the end of fall, beginning of winter, through the winter, and then you take them off in the spring. This is because they are not designed for warm temperatures. They have a softer compound, a special tread design, and they're soft because they're softer. They wear faster, so running them year round wouldn't be advantageous anyway. Those dedicated winter tires carry a 3-peak mountain snowflake symbol that Keith just mentioned. It's actually a symbol on the sidewall that says that tire passed a minimum snow traction requirement. So it's an actual test attached to that. You'll see on a lot of other all-season tires, all-terrain tires, an M and S on the sidewall, mud and snow. It'll just say M plus S on the sidewall. That might sound like it's good for snow, but it's actually, and it might be, but it's not an actual test. That's it's actually a void, a geometry measurement, how much void is in the tread. So, a real racy, like summer slick tire wouldn't have an M&S on it because it doesn't have enough void. It's just, the actual design. But either way, that tire didn't actually pass a snow traction test. This new class of tires is kind of emerging, and it's we call them all-weather tires. So these all-weather tires they actually have this 3-peak mountain snowflake symbol on the sidewall, meaning they pass the same test that the dedicated winter tires passed to get that symbol on the sidewall. But the beauty of these is you can use them year-round. They can be used year-round like an all-season tire, but they have this added snow traction. Getting back to is it the holy grail? I would say that they're an excellent choice for, like Keith said, someone around here where in Connecticut where it snows, but not heavily, a lot. Going back to his question, the best thing he can do is check our ratings. We just tested this past year 7 different models of all-weather tires, and you can see where they fall. I will give a slight hint that the Cross Climate is a very, very good tire, and I don't think you'll be upset that you purchased them.
This is great. I think this is why people like to listen and watch. So, Selvin from Singapore has a question. I follow CR for reliability ratings. Cars are exceptionally expensive in Singapore, and when I was looking for a car, I did not want something common. I purchased a 2017 Citroën Grand C4 Picasso MPV 1.6 diesel because it's unique. When I was searching reviews, I only found them from European reviewers and none from America. Why is Citroën not sold in America? Are there any plans for Citroën to be sold there? Also, I assume if it's not available in America, then reviews from Consumer Reports will not be available either. So, yeah, you're right. I'm going to take this one. Does anyone mind if I take the French car question?
I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is put in here for bait for me. But anyhow,
Selvin, it's like your Singaporean doppelganger.
Yeah, it's really this is weird. It's like talking to myself. So Citroën left the United States in 1974, and back then they were kind of cars. They were expensive, they were unique, and the U.S. just was too difficult for them. One of the reasons why was because there are different rules in different countries about things like headlights. Citroën had these sort of self-leveling headlights that were really cool, and they could turn with the wheel, and they weren't legal in the United States, so they had to make separate headlights for the US market. And that sort of lack of harmonization means that there are sort of these Galapagos Islands where this independent invention and evolution takes place. And Citroën did its own thing, and they left. People bought them. I mean, my grandmother's across the street neighbor had one up until the 80s. But and there's actually one just up the street from me. An importer brought some in the late 80s. But the U.S. is very strict with import rules, meaning you can't bring in something that's under 25 years old. So you can't even bring in a new one on your own. The other thing is that roads and driving patterns are totally different in different countries. So what might work in one country doesn't always translate for over here. So, we're not going to, unfortunately, as much as I would like to convince Gabe to put a Citroën on the list of things to test, we're not going to test one, because even if we imported one and drove one here and tested it, it would be such a different environment for it that it wouldn't be apples to apples. The other thing is that Citroën's not coming back to the U.S. They're part of Stellantis now, which is the big group that includes Fiat, Chrysler, Peugeot, a bunch of other brands. They're not coming back. There was a brief plan to bring Peugeot back to the U.S., and that was scrapped, much to my sadness. So,
I was just gonna say, I always had a little spot in my heart for Citroën's. I'm a huge rally fan. I love watching rally racing. And one of the best rally drivers ever drove was Sebastian Loeb, and he drove many different Citroens, but he was driving the Citroen C4, and I remember watching several years back, watching the rally on TV, and it's just what awesome cars. We have all the WRXs and all that stuff here, but those cars were just like these little hot hatches, and they were just fantastic. It's fun to watch, and I always wished they came here, but never made it.
Yeah, the U.S. doesn't like weird. We like everything we care so much about resale value. I mean, we don't even have cars in colors anymore.
Yeah,
so we don't do weird. That's too bad. Martin from Frederick, Maryland asks, as I near retirement, I'm looking at purchasing what could very well be my last automobile. I refuse to buy an SUV, so that leaves me with mid-sized sedans. I've narrowed it down to 3 used models in the following order. 1, a 2018 or newer Honda Accord hybrid. 2, a Toyota Camry hybrid. Or 3, in his words, a 2019 Toyota Prius hybrid. However, recently, the evil, his words, Alfa Romeo Giulia Ti Sport has been creeping into my periphery. My practical side says to stay away, but the Alfa is tugging at my heartstrings. Please, talk me off the ledge. Thanks in advance.
Oh, man.
Well, I don't think that I will be the one to tell you to get the Alfa Romeo. Sorry about that,
Emily's
Martin.
the smartest of all of us here, so listen to her.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has its perks, which Ryan can probably tell you from driving it on the track, but it wasn't my favorite. Of the choices that you presented before the Alfa Romeo, your practical choices, I liked the 2020 Honda Accord Hybrid. I think you said the 2018, but you said or newer, so I took or newer. It has better reliability than the 2018. It has really great fuel economy. We have that car as part of our test fleet for the child seat program, and It's comfortable. I find it easy to drive. The controls are fairly easy to use. It has standard advanced driver safety systems. You can get the optional blind spot warning, so make sure that you do. I would definitely encourage that. And it has really good crash scores. So that was going to be my pick. It allows you to save some money in retirement with the hybrid model, but also have something that's comfortable. In our report, we did say that it's a little bit low to the ground, so you might want to check your access before you get it, like see how comfortable you are getting in and out. That would be my only thing, but otherwise, I thought that was a really good choice.
I think you should definitely reframe. There's a phrase in there, my last car. And my father, about like 15 years before he died, said, I think this is going to be my last car. He had 4 more cars after that. And every single one of them, he said, I'm going to have, the one thing that you have in retirement usually is time. And my father's last car was an incredibly unreliable vehicle, and he spent most of his time sitting and reading newspapers in the mechanic's waiting room. So for all the fun that you get driving that Alfa, a few days a week, do you really want to? I mean, some of these dealerships are actually really nice. They have coffee. It's an Alfa dealer, so they're probably going to be shared with like a Maserati one. So you can get espresso. So you can save, if you like to go to like Starbucks or something, you can save a lot of money. But just keep in mind what's going to happen. Also, I'd suggest looking at my favorite car, a 2019 Toyota Avalon hybrid. As good fuel economy as almost as good as a Camry, but it's that bigger wheelbase means that you might get some of that ride quality you're looking for in the comfort. So if you can swing that, take a look. But I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just keep in mind what that might entail. Ryan, you're probably the most familiar with the Alfa. So what do you say?
Well, I'll be completely honest and transparent. The Alfa is a blast to drive, right? I mean, it's a super sharp steering. It got super sharp steering. It handles really well. It's like a little sports car, right? But it's low to the ground. The door openings are actually relatively small. It's cramped inside. It's a sporty, very, very sporty car. It's very different than the other 3 that he's listed. I mean, it is, but I haven't been known for doing practical things in my life, so I would probably buy the Alfa, but I'm not at retirement age, so you have to weigh that in. And like Keith said, the amount of time you're going to spend at the dealer, because they're not the most reliable. But I would go up. If we're not going to have fun, I would say I'm a fan of the Camry hybrid. I spent thousands of hours in a regular Camry testing tires, but you can't beat a Toyota hybrid system. And the Camry is a good size. It's easy to get in and out of. That would be my pick of those 3. But the Alfa, I don't know. It'd be fun.
And honestly, the Prius has its own charms. I mean, that big hatchback is really, really useful if you're doing projects. If you're, it's not fun in the same way, but it can make your life better in a way that makes you happier. So who knows? Anyhow,
yeah.
Martin, write us back. Tell us what you decided. George has a question. Why do manufacturers make cars now with 8, 9, or 10-speed transmissions? My old 1999 and 2004 Toyota Camrys have 4-speed transmissions, and they've been working just fine all these years. It seems like the more complexity in a system, the more possibility for trouble as the cars age. What's the advantage to having more gears?
Fuel economy.
Okay, next question. No.
Yeah, it's that simple. The older cars had, heck, they had 2-speed transmissions at one time, and then 3, and then 4, and people were complaining about that. But they weren't efficient. Those cars were not efficient. They had, some of these cars had big engines in them, and that's okay because it can push it. But what we're finding is with adding more gears allows a smaller engine to push a heavier vehicle. So we're seeing a lot of four-cylinder turbo engine cars, or turbo engines put into larger cars. I mean, the technology, like anything else, technology is advancing. So we're building better, lighter transmissions that shift smoothly. You don't even know that you're going through 8, 9, 10 gears, but they are more efficient. He is right. You are, the more things you add to a vehicle, the more opportunity you introduce, for failure or issues. And the manufacturers are they have pressure from the industry and the government and everything to raise their fuel economy numbers in the quest of becoming more green and saving the earth and all that stuff. So adding more gears has been an answer. So it's been working. So that's why fuel economy.
And some of these transmissions, like some which we saw early on from Ford and Chrysler with multi-speed transmissions, had some teething problems early on. Completely not going to lie about that, but they're starting to, they're not showing up in our reliability surveys as big issues.
And even the CVT transmission, continuously variable transmission, it's infinite gears. There's you can't even count them, right? I mean, it's literally there's no actual gears to count. But the early ones of those were problematic, but they've become a lot better, and those are much lighter, and they have their other issues in terms of drivability sometimes, but they've come a long way, and just technology advances, and
And wait a year before you buy something new.
Yeah.
So our last question is from Randy in Tennessee. Hey, Talking Cars, I have a question about a do-it-all vehicle. I own a 2011 Ford Escape with 90,000 miles. I'm looking for a car that I can take camping, is comfortable on long road trips, has enough room for gear and friends, and can also serve as my daily driver. Not sure if I should go with a truck, SUV, or even a car, or maybe a hybrid for the mileage. My budget is $35,000, new or used. Thanks for any advice. So, wow, this is really a do-it-all vehicle. Emily, what do you think?
I really struggled to find you a Goldilocks car, Randy. Especially with the camping and the gear. So we recently talked about this vehicle on the show. I went with the 2022 Santa Fe Hybrid. I really like the hybrid version over the regular gas engine for the Santa Fe. I think it's roomy, it's comfortable, it drives much better. It actually gives you that initial thrust acceleration that you need versus the gas version, which does not. And you have ample cargo space if you need to have rear passengers. If you're going on a trip with friends or something, you have the room to do that. Or you can just fold all those seats down and you'll have like a ton of great cargo room back there. And it has pretty decent fuel economy.
So, he mentions the gear and the camping, and so I'm thinking kind of an outdoorsy, type of person. And I'm gonna throw a wrench in here a little bit, and I'm gonna say a Toyota 4Runner.
Ooh.
Now the 4Runner is a more I would call it more of a trucky SUV. It's got more it's off-roady. I would say that the daily driving might be a little bit on the lower side, comfort wise, it's not the most comfortable. I like trucky off-roady kind of vehicles, and that's you can go to you can go down dirt road and get to your your secret fishing spot or go camping wherever. But it's it's kind of off-roady and outdoorsy. So I would say a 4Runner. I think that would be fun.
The as a callback to our earlier question, you can get one of those with a 5-speed transmission.
Right. Yeah.
So that'll tell you something about its fuel economy. My pick is actually, there's a little caveat here. We haven't driven it yet because we haven't gotten one in, but it's on the list, and maybe I'll have to come back and eat my words. I think the almost to do everything vehicle is actually the Ford Maverick. This new pickup truck, this new small truck. It's available as a hybrid. It starts at around $20,000, and you can really get it well equipped for $35,000. You can get it very well equipped. They're going to come out with even a camper shell for it. Too, so you can keep your gear in the back. Something that's really cool about it is there's all this kind of DIY stuff you can do. It's designed so you can build your own bike rack, and it sounds like you kind of want to, you got friends, which is something I'm unfamiliar with. You like to camp, which is something I'm unfamiliar. But it sounds like you want to do things and make your own bike rack. You can make your own car camper. You can it's sort of a base from which you can explore. So I say wait for our review of the Maverick before you, or at least our first drive, before you do anything else, because I certainly am waiting for that. So the Maverick will definitely be on a future episode of Talking Cars. We've got a lot of questions about that vehicle. But for now, that's all the time we have. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for sending them to talkingcars@icloud.com. You can head over to cr.org and learn even more about tires and even more about car seats than Emily and Ryan shared today. But for now, thanks for talking cars with us, and we'll talk cars again soon.